So I, male 44, have been married to my wife Vanessa, female 48, for 8 years now, and I'm honestly at my breaking point with her son. I never thought I'd be posting relationship problems on Reddit, but here I am, I guess. Some background. Vanessa was married to her ex Walter for like 15 years before they divorced when their son Jerry was 14. I met her about 4 years after that when Jerry was already 18 and in college. I don't have any kids of my own, but I've always tried to be supportive of Jerry without trying to be his dad or whatever. I mean, he was already an adult when I came into the picture, so I tried to just be like a friendly mentor type figure. I don't know if that makes sense. I work as a project manager, and Vanessa teaches high school English. We've always had a pretty solid relationship until recently. The problem is that Jerry, now 28, has been living with us for almost 2 years and shows absolutely zero signs of leaving or contributing anything to the household. Jerry graduated with a marketing degree 6 years ago, but has never held a job for more than a few months. He always has some excuse about how his boss was a jerk or the company was toxic or whatever. 2 years ago, he went through this really bad breakup and lost his apartment. Vanessa suggested we let him stay with us temporarily while he got back on his feet. The agreement, which apparently only I remember, was 3 to 4 months max, with him contributing to utilities after the first month. But here we are almost 2 years later and he's contributed exactly $0 to anything. Jerry sleeps until like noon every day, spends all afternoon playing video games, then goes out with friends until 2 to 3 a.m. Rinse and repeat. I found empty liquor bottles hidden in the recycling multiple times, and I'm pretty sure small amounts of money have gone missing from my wallet a few times. Nothing I can prove, though. I've tried everything to help this kid. I offered to pay for certification courses to boost his resume. I spent hours helping him fix his resume. I've reached out to like 5 different colleagues about potential openings. Nothing. He applies to maybe 1 job a month if I'm lucky. The other day I finally had enough and tried to talk with him about his job search. He just gave me his standard line about working on some opportunities. When I pointed out he'd been living here rent-free for 2 years, he claimed the job market is impossible for his generation. I suggested he could at least help around the house, but he said that's what his mom does. When I mentioned his mom works full-time and is exhausted, he muttered something about me not being his real dad. I proposed he contribute $400 monthly toward expenses, and he laughed and walked away. I was livid. I couldn't even speak. I was so angry. This is a 28-year-old man acting like a teenager. But it gets worse. I discovered last week that Jerry has been using Vanessa's Amazon account to buy expensive gaming equipment and clothes, over $2,000 worth in just the past 3 months. When I confronted him, he claimed Vanessa approved all the purchases. When I asked her about it, she said she knew about some purchases but had no idea it was that much money. This whole situation is destroying our marriage. Every time I bring up Jerry's behavior, Vanessa makes excuses about how the divorce was hard on him and he had a difficult childhood. The divorce was 14 years ago, and from what I understand, there wasn't abuse or anything super traumatic. Last week, I finally hit my limit. I sat them both down and told them either Jerry starts contributing $400 monthly or he needs to find somewhere else to live within 30 days. Jerry completely exploded, calling me a useless beta, and said I was trying to control everyone. He ranted about how I'm just a provider male, and Vanessa only married me for stability. And the worst part, Vanessa just sat there silently during his whole rant. She didn't defend me at all. Later, she told me privately that I was being too harsh and needed to give Jerry more time. More time? It's been 2 years. I honestly don't know what to do. Am I being unreasonable for expecting a 28-year-old to contribute something after 2 years of free housing, food, utilities, etc.? Should I stand firm on the 30-day deadline? I love Vanessa, but I'm starting to think she'll never cut the cord with Jerry. And I don't want to spend the next 20 years with an adult child living in my house, drinking my booze, and calling me a beta behind my back. Sorry for the long post. Typing this out has actually made me realize how ridiculous this whole situation is. Edit. Thanks for all the responses so far. To answer some common questions, no, Jerry doesn't have any diagnosed mental health issues that I'm aware of. Vanessa has suggested he might be depressed because of his job situation, but he refuses to see anyone about it. And honestly, he seems pretty happy when he's gaming with his friends or going out to bars, so. Several people have asked why I don't just kick him out since it's my house too. The house is actually in both our names. Vanessa and me. So legally, I can't just change the locks without her agreement. And while I'm frustrated with her enabling, I do love her and don't want to blow up our marriage over this. Though it's honestly heading that direction anyway. For those asking about what Jerry studied, he has a bachelor's in marketing. And yes, there are definitely marketing jobs available in our area. I've personally sent him at least 15 job postings over the past year. He always has some reason why they're not a good fit. Some of you are asking if there were any red flags before we got married. Honestly, no. Jerry was in college when we met, seemed motivated, had a part-time job, and was totally independent. This behavior started after his breakup 2 years ago, which I initially had a lot of sympathy for. But at some point, you have to move on with your life, right? Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post, and none of it good. Thanks to everyone who commented before. Wish I could say things worked out, but, well, you'll see. First, quick catch-up for those who didn't see my original post. My stepson Jerry, 28, has been living with us for almost 2 years after a breakup, contributing nothing to the household, spending all day gaming and going out with friends till 3 a.m. I finally gave him a 30-day ultimatum to either start paying $400 a month or move out. My wife Vanessa took his side. So yeah, things got way worse after that ultimatum. The next morning, Jerry started acting really disrespectful toward me. He stopped using my name and would just call me provider male or beta to my face. I tried to ignore it at first because I didn't want him to see me upset, but it was really hard. He also started leaving messes around the house. He'd make a sandwich and just leave all the ingredients out. Or he'd use the last of the milk and put the empty carton back in the fridge. When I'd say something about it, he'd make fun of me for being bothered by it. I did talk to Vanessa about it. She either didn't hear these comments or would say he was just joking or going through a hard time. The worst part was when he started having his friends over almost every night, like 3-4 guys in the living room, gaming until 3 or 4 in the morning, being super loud, leaving beer cans and food wrappers everywhere. I could hear them through the walls when I was trying to sleep before work. One morning I had this important presentation and had gotten maybe 3 hours of sleep because they were shouting all night. Then about 2 weeks after the ultimatum, I realized some of my stuff was missing. The most important thing was this watch my dad gave me before he passed away. It's not even that expensive, but it means a lot to me. I also had this small coin collection my grandfather started that was worth a decent amount. I confronted Jerry about it, and he got all defensive. He denied taking anything and tried to turn it around on me, saying I was just trying to make him look bad to justify kicking him out. When I told Vanessa about it, she suggested I might have misplaced the items or that one of Jerry's friends might have taken them without him knowing. Like, seriously. He's 28 years old and can't be responsible for the people he brings into our house. I also found out that Vanessa had been secretly giving Jerry money from our joint account. Over $800 last month alone. I only discovered it because I was paying bills and noticed some weird withdrawals. When I asked her about it, she got really defensive and said he needed help getting back on his feet. 2 years is not getting back on his feet. That's just enabling. About a week before the 30-day deadline, we had a really tense dinner. Just the 3 of us. I decided to bring up the deadline again, really calmly. I asked Jerry if he had thought about what he was going to do. He laughed and said it wasn't happening. I asked him why he felt entitled to free housing at his age. He said his therapist told him he has trauma from his parents' divorce and needs support to heal. He hasn't actually seen a therapist in over a year. I know because we were paying for it, and he stopped going. Vanessa immediately took his side and told me Jerry needs their support right now. I pointed out that Jerry hasn't seen a therapist in over a year, and maybe that would actually be helpful for him. Jerry called me controlling and financially abusive and said I was trying to drive a wedge between him and his mom. Then Vanessa told me to stop attacking her son, and I was just like, I'm not attacking him. I'm just asking him to contribute something after 2 years. Jerry smirked at me and said even his mom knows I'm being a beta. I asked Vanessa point blank if she was okay with Jerry calling me names like that. She said he was just expressing his feelings, which is, I don't even know what to say to that. I ended up just leaving the table because I was about to say something I'd regret. So the 30-day deadline came and went. No change. Jerry didn't contribute anything, didn't look for a place, didn't even acknowledge it. I waited a couple more days hoping Vanessa would say something, but nothing. Finally, I decided I had to follow through. I took a day off work when both of them were out. Jerry had some gaming tournament at a friend's house, and Vanessa was at school teaching. I packed up all of Jerry's stuff, carefully, didn't damage anything. I found some of my missing stuff in his room, by the way, including my dad's watch hidden in his desk drawer. I rented a storage unit, paid for 2 months up front, moved all his stuff there, and then changed our locks. I texted Jerry the location of the storage unit and the code to get in. I also texted Vanessa to let her know what I'd done and why. About 4 hours later, all hell broke loose. I hear someone pounding on the door, yelling. It's Jerry, and he's furious that his key doesn't work. Vanessa pulls up a minute later, and she's calling me nonstop. I don't answer the door right away, because honestly, Jerry sounded really aggressive and I wasn't sure what he might do. Finally, I opened the door to talk to Vanessa, but Jerry immediately pushed his way in and got in my face, yelling that he was going to beat my ass for touching his stuff. I stayed calm and just kept repeating that the 30-day notice had expired. He'd made zero effort to find other arrangements, and I'd safely stored all his belongings. Vanessa was crying and yelling about how cruel and heartless I was. I reminded her about all our previous discussions, how we'd agreed on the 30-day deadline, how Jerry had been disrespectful and had actually stolen from me. She just kept saying I never accepted her son and that I was jealous of their relationship, which is not even close to accurate. The situation just kept escalating. Jerry was calling me every name in the book. Vanessa was crying. I was trying to stay calm but also not back down. Finally, Vanessa announced she was leaving with Jerry. She packed a bag really quick, and they both left to stay with her sister Deborah. That was a week ago. Since then, I've gotten increasingly angry texts from Vanessa, calling me controlling and abusive. Jerry has apparently been telling family members that I physically threatened him. I never did, and that I threw his possessions into the street instead of a clean, secure, paid-for storage unit. Some of our mutual friends have taken sides. A couple have reached out to check if I'm okay, but most seem to believe Jerry's version of events. It's honestly been really isolating. I've started consulting with a divorce attorney just to understand my options. I still love Vanessa and hope we can work this out, but I feel like she's chosen Jerry over our marriage, and I refuse to live with a 28-year-old who disrespects me in my own home and steals from me. Did I do the right thing? I feel like I did, but when enough people tell you you're the bad guy, you start to question yourself. I set a boundary and stuck to it. Was I supposed to just let this go on forever? Sorry for the super long post. I'm just really struggling right now. Edit. Thanks for all the support so far. To address some common questions, yes, the house is in both our names, Vanessa and me. I checked with my lawyer, and what I did wasn't illegal since I didn't prevent Vanessa from entering, just changed the locks and gave her a new key. Jerry was never on the lease or any legal documentation as a resident. Several people have mentioned that I should have given Jerry a formal eviction notice instead of changing the locks. You're probably right. I was just at my breaking point after finding my dad's watch hidden in his room. Not my proudest moment, but I couldn't take another day of this situation. For those asking why I didn't call the police when I found my stolen items, honestly, I didn't want to get Jerry arrested or have a record. Despite everything, I know that would devastate Vanessa, and I was hoping we could resolve this without getting authorities involved. I just wanted him out of our house. Now for the second update. It's been 5 weeks since everything blew up. 5 weeks of absolute hell since I changed the locks and Vanessa left with Jerry to go stay at her sister's house. Honestly, wasn't even sure if I'd be posting another update, but so much has happened and I'm still processing everything. The first couple weeks after they left were brutal. Vanessa was sending these angry texts about how I betrayed her and her son, how I was controlling and abusive, etc. Jerry sent a few threatening messages too about how I'd regret messing with him, and other vague but scary stuff. I mostly didn't respond except for practical things about bills and the house. I was just trying to keep my head down and figure out next steps. I started meeting with a divorce lawyer, something I never thought I'd be doing, like ever, and was basically preparing myself for the end of my marriage. I mean, she chose her 28-year-old unemployed son over our entire relationship, right? What else was I supposed to think? But then around the 3-week mark, something weird happened. I got a call from Deborah, Vanessa's sister. We've always gotten along pretty well, but we're not like super close or anything, so I was surprised to hear from her. And holy shit, that conversation was eye-opening. Basically, Deborah called to tell me that having Jerry stay at her house had become a complete nightmare. Like, she was literally calling to apologize to me because she now understood exactly what I'd been dealing with. Jerry was eating all their food, leaving messes everywhere, staying up until 4 a.m. gaming and yelling with his friends online, and had been super rude to Deborah's husband Casey when he asked Jerry to help with some basic household chores. Apparently, Jerry called Casey a wage slave when Casey suggested Jerry look for a job. A wage slave, to the man whose house he was living in for free. Like, I can't even. Deborah told me she now understood my position completely and felt terrible for judging me. She also said something that really hit me hard. She said Vanessa had been downplaying Jerry's behavior for years, not just with me, but with the whole family. Whenever anyone expressed concern about Jerry not having a stable job or living situation, Vanessa would make excuses about the job market or his mental health or whatever. Oh, and the cherry on top, Jerry had lost access to the storage unit where I'd put all his stuff because he didn't pay the second month's fee, even though I'd paid the first month. And according to Deborah, Vanessa had been secretly looking at apartment listings for Jerry, but couldn't afford anything on her teacher's salary alone. Then about 4 weeks after Vanessa left, I got a text from her asking if we could talk. Not gonna lie, I was nervous as hell. Part of me wanted to just say no and proceed with the divorce, but I still love her, despite everything. So we agreed to meet at this neutral coffee shop downtown. When she showed up, she looked exhausted, like really tired and stressed, hair unwashed, no makeup, which is really unlike her. I could tell something was up right away. I asked how she'd been doing, and she just said, "It's been challenging," in this really quiet voice. I asked specifically about Jerry, and she initially tried to deflect, but then admitted he hadn't been looking for work at all. I asked if Jerry had been respectful to Deborah and Casey, and she actually teared up. She finally admitted that Jerry had called Casey a pathetic wage slave, among other things, when Casey asked him to help with dishes. I pointed out, as gently as I could, that this matched how Jerry had treated me. And you guys, I think something finally clicked for her. She acknowledged the pattern, but said she felt trapped between us. When I asked what she wanted going forward, she admitted she missed our home and our marriage. Then she told me that Casey had given Jerry an ultimatum to leave their house by the end of the week. So basically, Jerry had managed to wear out his welcome at 2 houses in less than 2 months. I made it really clear that Jerry could not come back to our house. Like, that was my one non-negotiable boundary. She seemed to accept it at first, but then started suggesting compromises, like letting him stay just until he finds a place, or just for 1 more month. I held firm. No way was I going through all that again. Things got even more complicated when I discovered through mutual friends that Jerry had been telling people on social media that I had stolen his belongings and kicked him out for no reason. He was playing the victim hard. I showed Vanessa screenshots where Jerry called me a controlling beta provider who was financially abusing her. I think seeing all this evidence, combined with Deborah and Casey's experiences, finally broke through her denial. But the real turning point came last week. Vanessa was at our house collecting more clothes. She'd been coming by occasionally to get things she needed, and Jerry showed up completely unannounced. He started pounding on the door, demanding to be let in, claiming he lived there. I refused to let him in, but offered to get anything he needed from the house. He started shouting about me stealing his things. Vanessa actually asked Jerry to calm down and handle this maturely, and that's when things got really ugly. Jerry turned on her, calling her a traitor, and accused her of choosing Dick over her own son. His exact words, which I'll never forget because it was so disgusting. I started recording on my phone because I was honestly worried about where this was going. Jerry threatened to break our windows if we didn't let him in. And then something amazing happened. Vanessa firmly told him this behavior was unacceptable. He called her pathetic and stormed off, kicking over the planter by our front door on his way out. Vanessa just broke down crying. I think she finally saw the manipulation clearly for the first time. That was the turning point. 3 days later, Vanessa moved back home after we agreed Jerry would not be permitted to live with us again. We've started marriage counseling, and Vanessa has begun individual therapy to address her guilt and boundary issues with Jerry. Jerry is currently staying with a friend but continues sending manipulative messages to Vanessa, alternating between tearful apologies and accusations that she's abandoned him. It's really hard on her. She's trying to maintain some kind of relationship with him while establishing healthier boundaries, but it's a struggle. We're working on rebuilding trust in our marriage. I won't lie, we still have a lot of issues to work through. I'm still hurt that she chose Jerry over me initially. She's still working through complicated feelings about her role in enabling Jerry's behavior. It's messy and difficult, and sometimes I wonder if we can actually get past this. But I do feel vindicated in my decision to stand firm on my boundaries. If I hadn't done that, we'd probably still be stuck in that toxic situation, with Jerry treating our home like a hotel and stealing from us. I've learned a lot about the challenges of blended families through all this. I wish I'd established clearer boundaries years ago, instead of letting things get so bad.